Hey there, I'm Jessica. 3 years ago, my mom called me after what should have been just another doctor's appointment. Her voice was shaking. The doctor found something, she said. That routine pap smear, you know, the one many women dread or postpone, detected abnormal cells that turned out to be early-stage cervical cancer. My mom, who never missed her annual checkups, caught it before it spread. Today, she's cancer-free and spoiling her grandkids rotten. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. What if she had skipped that appointment? What if she'd been too busy, like so many of us are? That 5-minute test literally saved her life. And it completely changed how our family thinks about preventive care. You know, before my mom's diagnosis, I was one of those people who'd make excuses to avoid medical appointments. I'm too busy, I feel fine, it's uncomfortable, I use them all. But watching someone you love face cancer changes your perspective pretty quickly. So today, I want to share what our family learned about pap smears and cervical health, not as a medical expert, but as a daughter who almost lost her mom to something preventable. Let's start with what a pap smear actually is, because I realized I didn't fully understand it myself. It's a simple screening test where cells are gently collected from the cervix and examined under a microscope to check for abnormalities that might lead to cervical cancer. That's it. A 5-minute procedure that's been saving women's lives since the 1940s. My mom's gynecologist explained that cervical cancer usually develops slowly, which is why regular screenings are so effective. They can catch cellular changes years before they become cancer. In my mom's case, they found what are called high-grade squamous intraepithelial lesions. Basically, cells that weren't cancer yet but were heading in that direction. When Mom first told us about her abnormal results, we were terrified. Cancer is one of those words that immediately makes your stomach drop. But her doctor was actually optimistic because they'd caught these changes early. That's the whole point of screening, finding issues when they're most treatable. Now, here's something I didn't know before this experience. Almost all cervical cancer is caused by certain types of HPV, or human papillomavirus. It's incredibly common, so common that nearly all sexually active people will get at least one type during their lifetime. Most HPV infections clear up on their own, but some high-risk types can persist and eventually lead to cancer. That's why pap smears are so crucial. They're looking for those cellular changes that happen before cancer develops. Mom had always been diligent about her health screenings. Every year, like clockwork, she'd schedule her annual exam. Dad would tease her about her color-coded health calendar, but she never missed an appointment. That consistency might be why her doctor noticed the changes so quickly. Her previous pap smear had been normal, so they knew these abnormal cells were relatively new. After the abnormal pap, Mom needed a procedure called a colposcopy, where the doctor examines the cervix more closely using a special microscope. They also took some tissue samples, biopsies, to determine exactly what was happening. Those results confirmed what the pap smear had suggested: precancerous cells that required treatment. The treatment itself was an outpatient procedure called a LEEP loop electrosurgical excision procedure. The doctor removed the abnormal tissue using a thin wire loop heated by an electric current. Mom said it was uncomfortable but not painful, and she was back to her normal routine within a couple of days. The procedure removed all the abnormal cells, but because her case was more advanced, Her doctor recommended additional testing to make sure there weren't cancer cells elsewhere. That's when we got the news: early-stage cervical cancer. It was confined to a small area, but it was cancer nonetheless. Mom needed surgery, a hysterectomy to remove her uterus and cervix. For her, at 58, this wasn't as devastating as it might be for younger women who want to have children. Still, any surgery comes with risks, and the emotional impact of a cancer diagnosis affects the whole family. Those weeks of waiting between appointments were some of the hardest our family has experienced. Dad, who's usually the calm one, became obsessed with researching cervical cancer statistics. My brother flew home from Seattle. I found myself calling Mom every day, sometimes just to hear her voice. Not knowing what to say, but needing that connection. The surgery went well. The doctors confirmed they had removed all the cancer, and because it was caught early, Mom didn't need radiation or chemotherapy. Her recovery wasn't easy. 6 weeks of limited activity for someone who's always on the go was tough, but she tackled it with the same determination she applies to everything. During this time, I started talking to friends about Pap smears and was shocked by how many admitted they were behind on their screenings. One friend hadn't had a Pap in 8 years. Another didn't know that Pap smears and HPV tests are different things. And several shared they avoided them because of fear or embarrassment. I get it. These conversations and procedures can be uncomfortable. But you know what's more uncomfortable? Sitting in a hospital waiting room while your mom undergoes cancer surgery. Or explaining to your kids why grandma is too sick to play. Or wondering if you waited too long for your own screening. The guidelines for Pap smears have changed over the years, which I think creates some confusion. Currently, most health organizations recommend starting Pap tests at age 21, then every 3 years until age 30. Between 30 and 65, women can have a Pap test every 3 years, or a Pap plus HPV test every 5 years. After 65, you might be able to stop if you've had regular screenings with normal results. But these are just general guidelines. Your doctor might recommend a different schedule based on your personal risk factors. What are those risk factors? Having HPV is the biggest one, especially certain high-risk types. Smoking doubles your risk of cervical cancer. Having multiple sexual partners increases exposure to HPV. A weakened immune system makes it harder to fight off HPV infections. And family history plays a role too, though my mom had no family history of cervical cancer. Since Mom's diagnosis, I've become that friend who reminds everyone about their well-woman exams. I've driven friends to appointments. I've answered awkward questions. And I've shared our family story more times than I can count. Here's what surprised me most about this experience: how preventable cervical cancer actually is. With regular screenings and the HPV vaccine for younger people, we could virtually eliminate this cancer. Yet in the United States alone, about 14,000 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer each year, and over 4,000 die from it. Those aren't just statistics, they're mothers, daughters, sisters, friends. I want to address something that comes up a lot in conversations about Pap smears: the discomfort. Yes, they can be uncomfortable. The speculum isn't anyone's favorite medical device. But the actual cell collection takes seconds, literally seconds, of mild discomfort. Compare that to cancer treatment, and the choice becomes pretty clear. Some women avoid pap smears because they're embarrassed or anxious. If that's you, please know that gynecologists perform these exams all day, every day. They're professionals who have seen it all. You can request a female provider if that makes you more comfortable. You can bring someone with you for support. You can tell your provider if you're anxious. These are all valid ways to make the experience better. Cost is another barrier for many women. If you don't have insurance, look into community health centers that offer sliding scale fees. Many counties have women's health programs that provide free or low-cost screenings. Organizations like Planned Parenthood offer affordable options too. No woman should miss potentially life-saving screening because of financial concerns. Mom's 3-year cancer-free checkup was last month. We celebrated with a family dinner. Nothing fancy, just all of us around the table, grateful for her health and the medical care that saved her. During dinner, my 22-year-old niece mentioned she'd scheduled her first pap smear. Mom reached across the table and squeezed her hand, no words needed. So here we are, 3 years after that phone call that changed everything. Mom's healthy. Our family is closer. And I never miss my annual exams. If you take anything away from our story, let it be this: preventive care works. Those routine checkups that are easy to postpone. They save lives, maybe yours, maybe someone you love. If you're due for a pap smear, please make that appointment today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. If you're worried or have questions, talk to your healthcare provider. If cost is an issue, ask about affordable options. And if you're scared, that's okay, go anyway. I often think about how different our family story could have been if Mom had skipped that appointment. Instead of celebration dinners, we might be marking anniversaries of loss. Instead of watching her with her grandkids, we might be telling them stories about the grandmother they barely knew. Your health matters, not just to you, but to everyone who loves you. So make that appointment. Have that conversation. Get that screening. Future you and all the people who love you will be thankful you did. And if you found this information helpful, please share it with the women in your life. Sometimes all it takes is a gentle reminder from someone who cares to make health a priority. Thanks for listening to our family story. Take care of yourselves and each other.